Daniel stood at the old wooden gate, his hands resting on the rusted latch, watching the scene unfold before him as though it were a story he had no part in. The sun dipped low in the sky, painting the horizon in shades of gold and crimson. Yet for him, there was no beauty in it. His chest felt heavy, each breath sharp as glass. Elena, the girl he had once dreamed of building a life with, stood just a few steps away. Her laughter, once a melody that filled his world with light, now rang hollow in his ears as she clutched the hand of another man. That man stood tall and proud, with confidence Daniel could never quite summon, the kind of swagger that seemed to promise the world. Daniel wanted to call her name, to ask her to look back just once, but his pride chained his tongue. Instead, he forced himself to stand still, his heart breaking with each step she took toward a life that did not include him. When she finally turned, their eyes met. For a moment, there was hesitation in hers. Was it guilt? Was it sorrow? But then she looked away, and in that instant, Daniel knew she was gone. The sound of carriage wheels against the gravel grew faint as they disappeared into the distance, leaving Daniel in silence, surrounded by the echoes of memories he no longer had the right to keep. He could have cursed her, could have sworn never to forgive, but instead he whispered softly into the evening air, "I hope he gives you the happiness you couldn't find in me." His words were carried away by the wind, a fragile prayer for the woman who had broken his heart, yet still held a part of it. The days that followed were not easy for Daniel, but he chose work over despair. He poured his strength into long hours at the mill, his hands blistered, his back aching, yet his spirit slowly stitched itself back together. Neighbors noticed the quiet determination in his eyes. He was a man who had tasted loss, but refused to let bitterness define him. Every coin he earned went toward building something steadier, something honest, and though the loneliness never fully left, it shaped him into someone stronger, someone rooted in resilience. Far away, Elena's story took a different turn. The man she had trusted with her future turned out to be less than the promise he once appeared to be. His charm faded quickly, replaced by anger, excuses, and eventually abandonment. He left her with nothing but empty pockets and a heart worn thin. The laughter that once sparkled in her voice was gone, replaced by silence and regret. She wandered from place to place, seeking comfort where none could be found, her beauty dimmed by hunger, her pride buried beneath shame. While Daniel carved out a quiet dignity in his life, Elena slipped further into shadows she had never imagined for herself. Nights grew colder, streets less forgiving, and the world seemed crueler when you had no one to stand beside you. Yet, in the stillness of her darkest moments, she thought of him, the man she had left behind without a backward glance. Memories of his steady kindness, his unshaken loyalty, burned brighter against the emptiness around her. She wondered if he hated her, if he remembered her at all, or if she had become just another chapter closed. Regret pressed on her like a weight she could no longer carry alone. The afternoon sun burned mercilessly, turning the dust on the road into a shimmering haze. Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow as he stepped out of the small shop he had built with his own hands. Life had become a rhythm of hard work and simple peace, a life far removed from the turmoil of the past. But that peace was broken when he noticed a figure approaching from a distance, frail, unsteady, wrapped in rags that barely clung to her thin frame. At first, he thought it was just another traveler seeking shade or rest. Yet as she drew nearer, something in her walk tugged at a memory he thought he had buried long ago. Her face was gaunt, her hair tangled and streaked with dust, but her eyes, those familiar, once bright eyes, made his heart stop. It was Elena. She stood before him, trembling, unable to meet his gaze for long. The proud woman who once left with dreams of a greater life now seemed smaller, broken by choices and fate. She clutched at the rags around her, her voice little more than a whisper, cracked by thirst and years of hardship. "Daniel," she murmured, her eyes wet with shame, "could you give me some water?" For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Memories rushed back. The day she left, the hollow ache of her absence, the nights he had wondered if he would ever forget. He could have turned away, could have let the bitterness of the past answer for him. Yet as he looked at her, he saw not betrayal, but a human soul brought low by suffering. Her plea was not just for water, but for mercy, for a fragment of the kindness she once took for granted. Daniel did not speak at once. He looked at her trembling hands, the way they clutched the edge of her rags, as though she feared even the air might reject her. The years of silence between them felt like an ocean, yet in that moment, all he saw was a weary soul desperate for a drop of kindness. Without hesitation, he walked back into his shop. The sound of a clay pitcher being lifted echoed softly, followed by the gentle trickle of water filling a cup. When he returned, the cup was brimming, cool droplets sliding down its sides in the heat of the day. Elena's eyes filled with tears as he extended it toward her. Her lips quivered, as if she expected scorn, as if she had braced herself for him to turn her away. But Daniel's face carried no anger, no bitterness, only a quiet strength that seemed to say, "I will not let your past define how I treat you now." She reached out, her hands shaking, and when their fingers brushed, she broke into sobs. The water touched her lips, and it was more than relief, it was redemption. Her tears fell into the cup as she drank, and when she lowered it, she could no longer hold back her words. "I don't deserve this," she whispered, her voice raw. Daniel met her gaze, his own steady and calm. "It's not about what we deserve," he replied softly. "It's about what we need." In that moment, Elena understood that true strength was not in holding grudges or returning pain for pain, but in offering compassion where it was least expected. The simple act of giving water became something greater, a lesson, a gift, a mercy that washed over both of them like a quiet blessing. Elena sat on the ground, clutching the empty cup as if it were the most precious thing she had ever held. Her tears stained the dust beneath her, but there was a strange peace in her heart, a stillness she had not known for years. She wanted to say more, to apologize for every wound, every choice, every moment of silence that had stretched between them. But Daniel, standing above her, did not wait for words that might never come. Instead, he offered her a small nod, a gesture of quiet understanding, and turned back toward his shop. Each step he took was steady, unhurried, like a man who had already made his peace long ago. He did not look back, and he did not need to. He had given her something far greater than pity. He had given her dignity. By handing her water without judgment, he had reminded her, and perhaps himself, that humanity is not measured by how we treat those who love us, but by how we treat those who have wronged us. As Daniel disappeared into the doorway, Elena pressed the cup to her chest. The weight of regret still lingered, but alongside it grew a fragile hope. She had come seeking water, but what she received was something deeper. Forgiveness she had never asked for, and grace she had never expected. The world around them carried on as usual. The breeze rustled through the trees. The sun dipped lower into the horizon. But for Elena, everything had changed. And for Daniel, there was no bitterness left, only the quiet strength of a man who chose kindness over revenge. Because in the end, victory was not found in watching someone fall, but in lifting them with compassion when they could no longer stand.